words and then we can get going. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We are honored and excited to have the wonderful folks from NANEC here. And I don't have much to say. I just wanted to at least welcome everyone and thank you again for joining us for Native American and Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month here that we're celebrating here at OMSA. So without further ado, I just want to go ahead and pass the mic.
Welcome from NANEC in Rapid City, South Dakota. There will be 4 of us speaking today. And in the traditional Lakota way of beginning any activity, whether it's a meeting or a community gathering, our cultural way is to begin with prayer. And so that's what I'll do here to help us give the good information to you today so that you can learn who we are as Indigenous people of South Dakota. Shahechitu, Mutarkepi, Le Lila Mushikala Shochakinte, the Nawin or Chashatong Higna, Don Wogla Sledge. Creator, thank you. Thank you for today. Thank you for the audience listening in on our presentation. Guide our words as we share who we are, what we do here at the College of Nursing. Guide us as we give our information so that others can understand our way of life to some degree. Thank you, Creator, for having us all here together. So welcome to our audience, and this is our NANEC team, or a partial group of us. And so today we're talking about resiliency and healing. And so we'll begin by introducing ourselves individually. And I'm Val Big Warne, and that's in that group picture with the ribbon skirts. I'm the middle person there. And I'm Oglala Lakota from Pine Ridge, South Dakota. And there are 9 tribes in Arizona, and we all have our own government, which is unique. We're sovereign nations. And so my title here is a mentor, instructor, and coordinator of the NANEC program.
And hello, everyone. My name is Val Big Eagle. I'm a Hanktawan Dakota, which is one of the tribes here in South Dakota. And I serve as the Diversity Outreach and Engagement Coordinator here for the College of Nursing, the Native American Nursing Education Center. And in my roles, I serve as a professional advisor to our Native American nursing students from pre-nursing on. So I'm really excited to be here and share our knowledge with you all.
Greetings, I'm Kathy LaBonte. My heritage is Métis Nation, and I am a pre-nursing mentor here at the Native American Nursing Ed Center. And I'm retired out of the Indian Health Service after 42 years, and now am able to be here to mentor our nursing students. Thank you.
Hi. I'm Tiara Ruff, the lower picture. I am like Bev Oglala from Pine Ridge, South Dakota. I've been a nurse for 30 years and recently retired from active duty United States Public Health Service in January of 2021. And I fortunately met these ladies along the road and decided that this is something that I've always wanted to do, and I joined the ladies, and this is what we are doing today.
Thank you, everyone. I would like to share that the vision for NANEC is taken from the words of one of our great leaders in our history, Chief Sitting Bull. And he, in the 1800s, said these words that are written in quotations here on the screen, when he said, "Let us put our minds together and see what life we can make for our children. And so that is the vision. The vision is for us to help our student nurses succeed in terms of finishing the program and becoming licensed as baccalaureate prepared nurses to go and work among our people and help heal our nation. On the left, you see a picture of one of our former students. She is now successful as a registered nurse and working, and that is her little girl. And of course, what our way of life is to honor our children. The Lakota word for children is wakaja, which means sacred ones. And so that gives you an idea of what our culture is like in terms of looking at children, that they are our future. So we need to put our minds together and see what we can do for our children. So literally, that's what we do here at NANEC. In the middle picture, of course, is a picture of Our Leader Sitting Bull. And then on the right, you see a gentleman who has a children's drum group. He's teaching those children how to sing and drum at various functions in our community. And so this is his way of giving back, his way of living the vision of Sitting Bull. The foundation of our program is rooted in our Lakota values, and there are 7. The English word, of course, is in white print, and then it is translated in our Lakota language in the yellow part. So our 4 basic values are around this medicine wheel, and the one to the right is fortitude. That is one of our values. And up, you see the word wisdom, and to the left is courage, and down is generosity. So those are the 4 values that are centered. And then you look up to the left side of your screen and you see the word honor. So when we think about all those words, we think of different ways of interpreting what these values mean. And down, the 6th value is respect. And we think about Mother Earth, or respecting Grandmother Earth, as some people will say in their teachings. And the 7th and the pivotal one is humility. So the other ones are the 4 directions, up and down, and humility is within. Within each of us, we have that quality or that value of humility that emanates out of how we treat each other. We have to be humble in our thought process in order to be respectful of all living things, not just a human being, but the 4-legged and the winged and the fish. We even think about the plants as part of who we are as human beings. And so that it makes you think about respecting Mother Earth as in a holistic manner. We at Native American Nursing Education Center this program has been here for 6 years, going on 7. And this was a dream of a former dean of nursing at SDSU College of Nursing. She knew that the Native students would stay in the program if they had some support that goes beyond what generally what a college offers their students, because we are unique. We are unique to this country. We're unique in our values and family orientation and relationships. There's so many things that go into this of being a Lakota and trying to live the Lakota way, thinking about those 7 values. And so the result of that may turn into the high dropout rate that used to exist in this program. which is now getting better because we are here to support our students in a cultural humility, with cultural humility. We started with 7 talking circles when we were just devising our language and what we would offer to support our students. And so we had 7 talking circles in different communities on the western half of South Dakota. And one of those, every one of those talking circle groups, talking circles are like what you would call a focus group, but the talking circle is spiritually based. So that's the difference between a focus group and a talking circle. So the students all identify the need to know more about our own culture as well as the Lakota language, along with other needs that were identified by the students and graduates, which were finances, which is always very, very prime need, because generally speaking, our people come from poverty. Language and culture, as I had already identified, and the need for mentoring, for someone to be present 24/7, preferably another Lakota or Native person. And so that's what we do here. We offer this mentoring part. And then the confirmation of the development of the NANEC model is based on what the students themselves identified as a need.
And so why did the Native American Nursing Education Center started? Well, one of the things is we do have more than one site within the College of Nursing, and you know, the dean wanted to focus on the Rapid City site because we did attract the most Native American students in the nursing program. We do see that Native American students are attracted to the Rapid City program because these are the sacred homelands of the Lakota. You know, we call these lands the Paha Sapa and Paha Sapa. The heart of all that is, and our sacred sites are located here. So are we are also close to Oglala Lakota Reservation along with Cheyenne River and Rosebud. And so those are the 3 main, the biggest reservations here within South Dakota. And so we do see that a large majority of our Native students are here and attracted to home. And then we also saw that there's between 18 and 24% of the Rapid City population is Native American. And we know that even here at our main hospital at Monument Health, the 1 in every 3 patients do identify as Native American. And so we see that there's a large need for more Native American nurses here in Rapid City. We know in South Dakota, around 9% of the population is Native. And within the nursing workforce, there's only around 3.2%. And so our mission is to increase the number of Native American nurses to address health disparities where our Native people are. And we know that research does say that Native American nurses do provide that culturally appropriate care that our Native people are seeking. And so we know that they can address health disparities in that way. And Bev talked about how we got started and how the NANEC model was developed. You see our model here on the right-hand side. And so our NANEC model consists of financial, academic, social, and cultural support. And within that financial support, that's when we see our students needing support with emergency funds or financial assistance, mentoring stipends, scholarship support, you know, the university having to be innovative and creative about how they provide scholarships for Native students, and then also pursuing different opportunities such as a HRSA grant or something that's very unique that our Native American nursing students can apply for. That academic support, so that's where needing someone different and means to, like what I do as an academic advisor, I'm Indigenous. I know I have an idea of what their story is and where they come from, because I too am from South Dakota and have that what was I going to say, that relatability with our students, because I have somewhat same story as them. And so providing them that unique academic support, because I've also experienced some of those things that our students are experiencing. And we also provide academic support through our mentoring, which we have our mentors right here. So being able to, ask students how their classes are going, but being able to provide them with tutoring or what have you, so that they can be successful in their classes. And in that social support, we call it being their academic tioshpahe. And what that means, tioshpahe in our language, it means extended family. So we act as an extended family to our students, and that's very unique. Not in the Western way, because, well, in the Western way, you have an academic advisor, you help students register for classes, and that's it. And that's not how it is for us in our way of being. We are like family to our students, and we want them to perceive us as such, so that they will be able to reach out to us when they need something. And so whenever I meet with students, I create that feeling and I say, call me Chue, I'm your big sister. This is Tui, Tai, Tui, Kathy, and this is Unchi Bev. You can come to us for anything. And so they do look at us in that type of way and do come to us when they need support. And then that cultural support, in which we do provide, spiritual ceremony if they need to, such as Inipi, which is the sweat lodge ceremony, the purifying ceremony. And just when students, we know a lot of our students are dealing with external factors that may impede their educational journeys, and a lot of those times those can be mitigated through our traditional ways of healing. And so that's something that we do provide here, along with smudging. We do have our Native American, our honoring ceremony when students do complete the nursing program. Also, we have something called Wahampi Nawa Uspe, which is our soup and learn, which we bring in Indigenous speakers who speak on various topics that our students want, such as learning more about our Indigenous plants and herbs, or learning about the Lakota language, or those types of things. And so we're very intentional about what we do here, and it is very much grounded in our Lakota values. So we recruit, retain, we graduate, we work with students all the way up until licensure. And so not just it's beyond graduation, it's continuing that mentorship and support until they pass state boards. And so that's something that's really important to us.
As community members, we participate in our Native community engagement, which takes many pathways. And we just want to share some of that with you, some of the community work that we do. One thing that we've developed in the past few years is the Great Plains Native American Nursing Association, which is a mentoring program for Native nurses and allied professionals to work with Native students regardless of where those nursing students are attending school, and to provide support and nurturing and help nursing students to be successful. The handbook that we developed is also for creating successful relationships between the mentor and the mentee, and it's just been very successful in getting other nurses involved in our work to increase our number of Native American nurses. Part of our community commitment is to honor the children who perished and were buried across from our Indian boarding school here in Rapid City. The burial site is up on that hillside in these unmarked graves. Part of our work is to acknowledge and honor these children. And this burial site, which was on taken land, has now been returned and is back in trust, where we will be building, and we are currently working on getting a memorial site created there. This site will be honoring the children and providing space for them, space for our community to be able to come and pray for the children that have been interned here. And Ty will speak about boarding school.
Well, but the origin of the boarding school started with General Richard Henry Pratt, who was the founder of the Carlisle Indian Boarding School. In the early 1800s, it started with the Indian Civilization Act, and then the latter part of the 1800s, it was a Indian peace policy that they created, and this is looked, depending from what perspective, it's a successful story, yet it is a story of death for Native Americans, and the United States was you could say successful at a lot of these these Indian boarding schools that originated back then. And this shows a picture of the boarding school in Rapid City, the Indian School Complex. 83% of Indian children who were school aged were in these boarding schools across America. There were 367 boarding schools in 29 states. They have originated with that policy and with that act. And it began with the different denominations throughout history. A group of denominations of the church were established or were brought together to be charged of these boarding schools and teach. This one taught a lot of agriculture, various agriculture, and the whole goal was to, as General George Henry Pratt was to save the man and kill the Indians. So you had, at 1900, you had 20,000 students, Indian kids in these schools, and by 1925 there was 60,000. So you can imagine how huge this was. There was 1,200 acres of original land here in Rapid City in over 35 years, 1898 to 1933. Part of it was mandatory for the kids to go to school, and part of what they did was to punish the parents if the kids, school-age children, did not attend the school. So it was basically send your kids to school or you won't get the rations that they gave parents and families, which is essentially starve. And
these boarding schools in our history, there was a high mortality rate at all of these schools. And of course, it includes Rapid City Indian Boarding School right here in our community. And this is one of the archives of information that was found in, I believe this list was found in Kansas City, where there is an archive stored there. All the storage is there for some of our history. And now people can access those archives and pull out some historical facts that prove all these things have happened. And this is more or less proof because it lists the original list of people, of our children of many ages who did die at Rapid City Indian boarding school. And so this is archival copy, and the any of the boarding schools, for instance, like at Carlisle that Ty just spoke about, their grave sites are very neat. They look like the cemetery in Washington, D.C. for our veterans, and very neatly in a row. And when you look closely at the grave sites, some of them say unknown. So when you think about that unknown child that's buried there, they had a family somewhere in the United States. They had parents, grandparents, siblings possibly, who cared about them, loved them, and they were taken away by force and never returned. So that is grieving. That is part of historical trauma, that unresolved grieving that families are still experiencing today. And so the next slide will show you clearly the names of those children that were found on this original sheet of paper that was extracted from the archives. And you could see here some of the names were illegible, like the first one, the 14-year-old who died there, and they didn't know who it was. So the 50 grave sites that were found through various means are listed here. And they go all the way from infants to 18-year-old. Some of them were did freeze to death trying to run away and go home. And some of them are cause unknown. And so you wonder why there was such an excessive number of children who died at these boarding schools. But the truth is coming out now. And so that part of our history that has always been subdued and not taught in our school systems. One of the people that we know calls this ignorance by design, because the school systems are not telling the truth about what happened in Indigenous history in this very country. And this part of this will explain why there is such health disparities today. It's a result of the many years of genocide, physical genocide, as well as cultural genocide, forced assimilation, and punishments of various kinds if you did not send your children to these schools. So it's pretty harsh. It's a harsh history, but it does need to be acknowledged and validated, just as it is happening right now, being validated that these atrocities did take place in our country.
This is our website, Remembering the Children, a website that for more information, you'll be able to go into. The website has the history that all of us have been speaking about, our memorial site design, media, the land research project that has brought parcels of land back into trust, fundraising, other activities surrounding the work to bring dignity to our ancestors that are buried here at the from the Rapid City Boarding School. This is a photograph just recently from our 4th year anniversary of honoring the children. We start our walk in the Memorial Park here. There are placards with each child's name, even the unknown children that are buried at the site. We ask ancestors to carry the signs, or children from our community to carry the signs, and we walk to the memorial site. It's a time for us to honor the children, to feed their spirits. and to pray that they are in a sacred way. Part of our memorial design is we will be having sculptures. This is a mock-up of a sculpture that's being prepared by one of our local sculptors. As you can see, just there's more to it now, but this is like a grandmother holding the arm of her, a mother holding the arm of her son, who you can see is in a uniform, the uniform that the children were forced to wear at the boarding school. We'll welcome you to come to Rapid City and see our memorial when it's completed. It's going to be beautiful. There'll be the center between the parents. There's a grandmother in this photograph, a sister, that isn't in this photograph, but now have been added to this design. And in the center, there'll be light illuminating through stars that are cut into the center of this family, and the stars will be illuminated up into the sky to honor the children.
So before I get into this slide right here, this all ties into why our Native students are wanting to know more about their culture and their language, because we know that it was stripped from our ancestors, and you can see how it does have an impact on our students today. I know that we have students in our school systems that are longing to know who they are and where they come from. They're longing to know their identity. We see higher rates of suicide with the Native community. Well, why is that? And that's why we talked to you today about the history of boarding schools. It's because historical trauma is real. That intergenerational trauma, we know in epigenetic research that it does exist in our DNA. And how can we heal as a people? Well, we need our allies, and we need our schools. We need our higher education facilities, institutions to acknowledge that it is important to teach our culture and our language from whatever geographical space that is. Here it's Lakota. So here, part of what, as what we do here in the community, and as president of Title VI Indian Education, as myself, it was important that we start acknowledging and doing this work in our school system. And so we started an immersion program this year at a public school, at an elementary school, which is a first. Because most of the Lakota immersion programs that do take place, are immersion programs throughout the country, are at the tribal schools, or they're very unique, or they're private. And so for this to take place within a public school, it was a challenge, but we were able to do this, and it is, I can see that it is successful. Right here, you'll see my son Kyrie. He is in the kindergarten immersion program. So it started with kindergarten, which was 22 kindergarten students, and each year they'll add a class. So next year he'll be in first grade, they'll add another kindergarten class. The following year he'll be in second grade, but they'll add another kindergarten class, keep the first grade class until it's an entire immersion program. Because what we see within Rapid City area schools is that, for example, last year's graduating class of 2020, their freshman year, they started with over 350 Native students throughout the school district. And their senior year, they graduated with less than 100. Well, why is that? There's several different things that we can attribute that to, but what we know is that whatever is taking place within the schools is not working. So we must try something different. So this is that something different that we are doing. And so far, what I can see is that my son is excited and about his learning. He is empowered. And you can see by the way that when he comes home, he's learning his language, but he's empowered to be Indigenous and in his own way. He's right here, he's in his grass dance regalia, and he says, "Mom, So I can wear my wapesha, and that's what you see on top of his head. And to me, that's him saying, Mom, I can be myself. And so just imagine, we are a resilient people because we are still here even after the atrocities that have been done to our ancestors and our people. And that we just need programs as such to foster this Indigenous genius that are within each and every one of our Indigenous children. And so this is just something that we wanted to share with you all that we are doing, and it does all tie into and intersects with higher education and how we must be innovative and do something different that has not been done before, and which is why NANEC was created, and which is why we call out other universities to do the same, to honor our language, to honor the culture, to honor the land that you are on, which is why you see universities doing land acknowledgements today. And so we just wanted to say, Pilama Yaye, thank you for your time. We do have time for questions, and we're just very honored that you allowed us to be here in this space and to share this information with you all. So thank you. Do we have any questions?
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation. I actually do have a question. I'm a nurse and I work specifically in OBGYN. I have for a really long time. First of just like getting pregnant and having a baby myself, and basically like your whole brain and heart and soul opens up. And you're like, oh, I should be doing something better with my life. And so I was wondering if you know of any programs specifically for midwives for Indigenous people. I know we have a midwifery program at VCU, and we have a school of nursing, and I mean, we're on Mattaponi land right now. I'm sitting on Mattaponi land right now. So we have two tribes, like Pamunkey and Mattaponi are right here in this area, and then Nansemon's further west. But I guess, yeah, if you know anything, because I also know that kind of what you were talking about with the epigenetic and the historical generational trauma, it's the same thing we see with African American women, right? Like the premature rates are really high for both Indigenous women and African American women. The infant mortality rate is really high, and it doesn't even matter socioeconomic status, blah 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 blah. It's all that. It's epigenetic. It's trauma. It's harm. It's white supremacy. It's all of the evil, right? So that was something I was like, I'm gonna cry. But protections specifically for Indigenous women, midwifery, if you knew of anything.
You know, we have a Native American OBGYN center here in Rapid City, and it's part of our tribal hospital, and part of tribal hospital and Indian Health Service Hospital. We do employ our own midwives there who have privileges at our hospital, our one hospital here that does deliveries. And what they have to offer is very culturally based. But as far as having a program where midwives are trained, I'm not aware of a specific program. Do you know anything, Ty?
I know the University of Minnesota does a lot of work with Native populations and programs. So they may have a program there because there's a lot of tribes right in that area who attend the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities.
May not necessarily be a midwife program, but Bev's son, Dr. Donald Warne, we can talk about his program with Indians into Medicine. That's
the idea of this is very much a need, as we all know, in our nation. So people like you who care so much about it, you showed that today, that you care very deeply about this population. And one of the things that you could do is create a team of people and create one. It's not beyond you as a nurse and a caring one with OB as your specialty, just to throw that out. But we created NANEC out of nothing. So it isn't as clinically based as you're talking about, but we can do it. There are people out there that care enough about it. And we certainly can help you with identifying people if you ever decide to do that. But what Val asked me to talk about was a UND. They have several programs, including the very most recent Department of Indigenous Health. It's the first one in the nation. It's the first one globally, as far as we know, that there is a Department of Indigenous Health at UND, University of North Dakota in Grand Forks. And out of that, they received a 5-year grant from NIH for $11 million to create this research base for resiliency and trauma. Because generally speaking, we approach all our problems with the negative sounding trauma. But we have to remember that we are resilient people, and it's been shown throughout history to the point where we're still here today. Although every policy was tried to get rid of us, but we survived all that. That had to take some resiliency on the way. So none of us can say that we did this or I did that. We're standing on the shoulders of all those people that had to go through trauma for us to be here today talking about it. So if you could get a hold of UND, Department of Indigenous Health, they may be able to start an organization and you can help them.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. And then Doris has a question. What's one piece of advice you give to college students trying to maintain their identity, but they're still navigating a white man's educational system?
Yeah. You say it so beautifully.
Say it in the Lakota way.
Yes, well, of course, part of NANEC's success is that we're Indigenous. And we don't, I always say this, we don't have to do a lit review to know what to do because we live our program like we do at home. It's an extended family feeling that we have, and it's not hierarchical. We're all we're at the same level. And so there's no battle going on that you see in some organizations where somebody wants to be one up on another. That's not the way we operate. And so trying to maintain your cultural way, it's not put on, it's the way we are. And so that's one way that a student can see that. And of course, everything we do is cultural.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we do is cultural, our way of communication, our pictures on the wall, our everything, including the soup and learn that we do. Most of us grew up on soup. And so we have a soup and learn. And that takes you back to history. And that's how we survived historically.
Mm-hmm. I would just say one piece of advice for Native students who are trying to maintain is to not give in, do not feel like how I felt going to college was that I had to give up the part of me to fit in. And it's really hard for Native students to even be that empowered. So you have to find a support system. And so I always tell students to find the nearest multicultural center, the Native American center, what have you, so that they have that support, so that they can feel that empowered to not forget who they are, where they come from. Of course, we know we have to navigate this Western society, we have to navigate that, but it's important that we also remember who we are, where we come from. And oftentimes even us here and our students, it feels like you're walking in two worlds. And it does become a challenge, you know, but that's why you need support. We support each other here. We support our students. We go through ceremony, you know, advocacy. You need an advocate when you're a student and that young. And so I know I did, and I had to find that when I was at college, and I know we had to find that. And so our students are the same. They have to be able to find that. And sometimes that's hard. Think about just like a student coming from the reservation, not necessarily having that voice, feeling that empowered to say, where's the multicultural center? Where's this? You can feel lost in translation, and you can. That's why it's important for us to just the people, the right people to be there like us, and to find them and to say, hey, we're here, instead of them looking for us. So that's another way. What else? Question? Any other questions? Alyssa?
I have one, yeah, actually. So like as far as the immersion program goes, I think that that's an amazing idea. And I was just curious about like the curriculum and like what's going into that and how, you know, how the kids are taking it, because I'm Hispanic and Native, and like in I'm on the East Coast, so like I'm like kind of closer to DC, so I've definitely seen like immersion programs for Spanish.
Right.
So I just I'm really curious about the curriculum with the in Rapid City.
And so whenever we created the immersion program, we, you know, it wasn't just Rapid City doing, you know, we reached out to all the existing Lakota immersion programs, and they were generous enough to give us their curriculum, such as Red Cloud, Thunder Valley Community Development. So I know that the written language, the ethnography is challenging because Lakota, like Bev can talk about it too, the way that things were said traditionally in the old way, maybe be said differently now in contemporary way. And because Lakota was not a written language, it was oral. And it's very distinct or descriptive. And so it, you know, we were lucky enough to have these organizations already come up with the curriculum, and Lakota Language Consortium as such. And we do have fluent speakers that are part of it, and they're creating it at the same time. And so that's what's really important about the immersion. And this was one of the first to even get Indian preference attached to these job descriptions, because we knew what was needed. Like Bev said, we didn't need a lit review to know how to teach our children. We've been wanting to do this. Our community has been wanting to do this for a long time. And so as soon as they gave us the opportunity, we were ready. We were going to make it work. And so reaching out to those organizations, making sure we have fluent speakers who are also know about our culture and our way of life. That's important too. You have to live it. And so that's, I feel like that was what was most important. And I could just tell you just from firsthand, being a mom to my son being in the immersion program, he's learning so much every day. And I know because he was in the YMCA Child Development Center, which is, you know, wasn't Lakota based or anything like that. And he would just say, Mom, I don't want to go to school. I hate it. And and we know that's how a lot of children are, but whenever we were going to the immersion program to meet the teacher, and I said, son, guess what? And he's like, what, Mom? I said, we're gonna go to your kindergarten class, and guess what? I get him really excited. What, Mom, what? I said, your teacher's Lakota. Oh, does that mean I can wear my wapesha? And he went and he made his regalia, and he said, how he explains it is that he said, Mom, we just sing and dance pawa all day, every day. And to me, that's him just saying, gee, Mom, we speak Lakota all day, every day, and I could be who I am. And he's just happy. I sat in that classroom and I watched these kids and how they interact with the teachers and vice versa. It's a different type of environment. It's a tioshpahe. It's an extended family. And that's how the students are like so with one another. Chepa she, their cousins or what have you, brother, sister. The teacher is, you know, they look at them as Unchi or Ina. You know, it's a family and it's different. It's how we interact with our children at home. And to just see him so happy, I mean, I cry about it, but I think I'm out of tears today. It's just so exciting to see that what we've known all along to be working is going to work. And we know that bilingual children, they have a higher IQ. You know, the research says it all. They already know English and now they're learning Lakota and they're going to be empowered. They're tapping into that ingenious that our ancestors are, they're resilient already. And so we already know they're going to have a better future. You know, all this research has been done throughout the years for this to happen. And according to Black Elk, his vision, this generation right here with my son, that's the 7th generation. That's who's going to mend our sacred hoop. That's what's going to bring our language and our culture back, and so that we can be a thriving Indigenous nation once again. So we're really excited about this, and to see more natives in higher education, to see more doctors, to see more lawyers, all of these things, it is all interconnected.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Do you all have an anticipated or date when the memorial may be completed?
We're thinking, we want it to be completed within the next 3 years. We're doing fundraising, getting some grants, writing grants. And that's what we're hoping for. So that on the 7th year, the 7th memorial, we're hoping that it'll be completed.
And we encourage everyone to look at that rememberingthechildren.org website, because all of the history behind how that land research started, which was at the 75th anniversary of Susan, the Indian Health Services, the hospital here in Rapid City, and our elders asking for the children's graves, for the community members to find the children's graves. So that's how that started. And there's much more to that story, but I encourage everyone to look at that website. There's YouTube videos, there's media release, press releases, all of those things. There's lectures.
There's even letters from the parents to the school about where is my child, or how is my child doing, or there's so much in there. It's almost overwhelming to try to get through it at one point, but there's so much history. And the opening of the memorial will be posted there. We hope you can all join us.
Thank you.
Because then
And
I'm looking at you and I'm like, we're going, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Any last questions from our audience members or any parting words from our presenters?
We're always happy to share what we know. And so we appreciate the invitation from Virginia. And when we talk about presenting, they say, how do you get hold of all these people? And I've through various avenues of information, people find out about NANEC and what we're doing here. And so something like this does need to be publicized, so that other universities and organizations can try to do the same thing. And we are certainly available to help with that process in whatever way we can. So we're extending that invitation to whoever is listening. Thank you.
Thank you for everything. You know, I think it would not be fair to even close without mentioning Doris, who is really the mastermind behind how this connection even took place. Doris at NAHAM, Native American Higher Education and Mentoring, and all her team and their wonderful efforts in even helping supporting OMSA in putting this line of programming for the month and getting us connected to NANEC. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and gratitude extended to Doris and her wonderful team. And thank you everyone at NANEC for being here with us. Just really honored and very much appreciative. So.
Hey,
Thank you.
Don't shout, okay? See
Thank
you.
you.